Hey friend, welcome to the Self-Care Isn't Selfish podcast. I'm your host, Emily Nichols. I'm a self-care coach who is on a mission to help you get your body and mind fit through simple and sustainable self-care habits. And I get it. I'm a busy working boy mom who used to feel like a hot mess all the time until I found a solution, my own self-care routine. And friend, I want that for you too. Join us each week to hear attainable self-care tips for all areas of your life from my amazing guests or quickie episodes with me sharing my own experiences and professional wellness knowledge. After each episode, you'll leave with an action plan to start making self-care a priority in your life and get your body and mind fit. So grab a cup of coffee, glass of wine, or your favorite sparkling water, and let's do this. You're listening to episode 80 of the Self-Care Isn't Selfish podcast. Hey friend, welcome back to the show. I'm so glad you're here. If you haven't had a chance to listen to last week's episode yet, pause this, go back and listen to episode 79. I'm sharing 6 easy ways to stay motivated and reach your goals at the same time. So I hope you've listened to it and you're feeling motivated, inspired. If you're not feeling so motivated, inspired, go give it a listen because I guarantee the strategies I list in there will help you get back on track with your motivation. And I also included a bonus worksheet in my free Facebook group. There's a link in the show notes if you'd like to join us over there, all about how to use a distraction list to stay motivated and be more mindful as far as your procrastination and what is not on your priority list right now. So I hope that's helpful for you. So gang, we're in the last week of January. I just want to give a quick shout out to all of my Whole30 clients who started the Whole30 Anytime course at the beginning of the year. You guys, you have made it to the end. Do not skip your reintroduction. Keep going. This is going to give you so much data as far as your habits and relationship around food and maybe what food agrees with you or not. Gang, the Whole30 Anytime course, as it says, anytime, it's available anytime. So if you're looking to start your next round of Whole30 for the month of February, go ahead and follow the link in my show notes to get that Whole30 Anytime course. There's a couple of bonus upgrades you can do if you need a little bit of further accountability. And every Wednesday night, there is a free webinar to give you more information to see if Whole30 is a good fit for you or not. So let's get into today's episode. This is for all of the working moms out there that are listening, which is like everyone, all of us. We all work in some capacity. Even if you stay home with your kids, I know you're working. You're working hard, girl. And I've been wanting to do an episode that was more working mom and career focused because that's been a big part of my identity for my whole life, my whole adult life, pretty much after I graduated college. And just being your highest self as a working mom and becoming your highest self as a working mom. We get so caught up in what we think we should be doing in our career as a working mom. And let's face it, it's really easy to get burnt out, overwhelmed, trying to do all the things. And a lot of this can be avoided by becoming more self-aware of who you are as a person, what your passions are, what your mission is in order to live your highest self as a working mom. I love being a working mom. I love what I do for my children. I love what I do for work. It's a way for me to honestly fulfill my own cup as well. You know, it's not necessarily a form of self-care, but it is something that lights me up. But that hasn't always been the case within my career. Let me take you back to about 2008. My oldest son, Dylan, was born that year. Gosh, he's almost going to be 13 now, you guys. He's going to be an official teenager. Ugh, I digress. Okay, rewind. So we're back in 2008. My son Dylan was born, and I was at the time climbing the corporate ladder as a school recruiter. I loved my job. I was really good at my job, and in my mind, I'm like, I am going to move into management, into leadership. I'm going to run this whole place. But then my son was born, and he was born with a heart problem. I didn't know what our lives would look like, and that job just didn't matter to me anymore. Okay, like it really just didn't matter. My priorities shifted. I was working a lot of late nights, weekends, and I wanted to be there for my son, but we couldn't afford for me not to work. We just absolutely could not. So I took what was more of a mommy-friendly job, if you will, a couple months after I went back after my maternity leave. And that was a really hard decision for me. I cried my eyes out making the decision because I felt like I wasn't putting myself first anymore. And sometimes I know we have to make sacrifices as moms. So I went to this more mommy-friendly job and I hated it. I'm not going to say where, but I just absolutely hated it. The people there just weren't my people. I wasn't passionate about what they were doing there. And it just wasn't a good fit for me. It just wasn't. So during that time, I started speaking and raising money for events for the American Heart Association because I wanted to do something for my son because I felt so helpless as a mom. So I was like, okay, I can raise money for research. And I got so involved with that organization, it eventually turned into a job, what I thought was my dream job. And it didn't happen overnight. I made it happen. I did it by making connections. I started, like I said, speaking and raising money. And the people I was working with, I asked each of them to write letters of recommendation, send them to the hiring manager, get me on the front of their list to hire me for that job. And I prayed every single night. And I dreamed and I felt and I manifested what it would like when I got that job. And know what? I interviewed for it and then I didn't get it. Heartbreaking. I remember crumbling to the floor crying because I was like, I am just stuck in this job that's not meant for me. I'm not meant for this business. I'm not meant for this company. They're not meant for me. But then a month later, I got a call back from the AHA and they offered me a position within a territory that was going to be perfect for me. The other one just wasn't going to work out. And everything worked out the way it was supposed to be. So I went on. I was super successful at this job. I was so passionate about it. The volunteers I worked with, I loved them so much. I still love them all dearly until to this day and forever and always because they were just amazing, amazing people. But then the job just wasn't right for me anymore. It didn't feel right. A lot of the things that we were promoting and saying, I was like, that doesn't really line up with how I feel about health. And you're like, yeah, I want to raise money for research for congenital heart defects. Absolutely. But I don't like the way I'm going about raising that money right now and the pressure I was under. So I started kind of just nonchalantly looking for other jobs. And I feel like I know in my heart, I manifested and God presented to me the current position I'm in now, working for a mental health organization and helping Indiana high school students thinking about self-care and mental health. Leaving that job at the AHA was gut-wrenching for me because of those volunteers, because of my coworkers. I felt like I was letting people down. But although it was a scary decision, it was the right decision for me, and such a weight was lifted off of me. I guess what I'm trying to say is I really found my passions, and I was self-aware enough to know when it wasn't my passion anymore and I wasn't living as my highest self as a working mom. You know, I gained so much experience. Y'all, I used to talk to like kindergartners, elementary students, middle school, and high school students. I just speak with high school students now. And I tell you what, if you can speak to those age ranges of kids, if you can present in front of kids, you can do anything. And I feel like it prepared me for my podcast, for speaking on the fly, for sharing, you know, my own story and making it fit where people could relate to it. So, you know, I gained so much experience and whatnot, but I went after what I needed. And it took a while to figure out what I needed as a working mom, as a career woman. And now I feel like I'm living my highest self as a working mom by doing the podcast, by offering my courses and coaching opportunities, and by what I do during the day as well. So let's get into our guest today. Today, we are talking with Jacqueline Martinez. She is the host of the From Coffee to Wine podcast, and you are going to love this conversation, especially as a working mom, as a career woman, and thinking about strategies you can start implementing now and being really aware of to become your highest self as a working mom. So let me tell you a little bit about Jacqueline. So she is on a mission to transform the world of work. I love that. So she's been in corporate HR for most of her career, and she spends her days now consulting companies on their people and hiring processes. and she spends her night career coaching and helping people learn more about themselves using human design as a helpful tool. And we'll talk a little bit more about human design in our conversation. And at the end of their episode, I'll be sharing what my human design type is. I was not surprised, to tell you the truth. So like I said, Jacqueline hosts the From Coffee to Wine podcast. Go check it out. And she interviews individuals who have helped her grow and have expanded her life. So, and of course, Jacqueline's true love is her family of 5 who have been amazingly blended for 4 years. And I love this. Her method to her madness is lots of dance parties. I can relate, Jacqueline. I can always go for a dance party in my kitchen while cooking dinner. So, gang, stick around to the end of the episode. I'll share my 3 biggest takeaways. I'll share with you my human design type as well. And I hope you feel inspired by my conversation with Jacqueline Martinez. All right, gang, I am so excited to have you tuning in again this week. I am so excited to introduce to you my guest from the From Coffee to Wine podcast, Jacqueline Martinez. Jacqueline, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Emily, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, the first question I ask all of my guests, everyone knows it's coming. Jacqueline, what does self-care mean to you?
Oh man, self-care is many things, right? It can look practically any way that works for you, but I think at its most base level for me, it's getting back to myself. There are so many things that we pick up throughout our days, right? Other people's emotions and thoughts, other people's ideas and to-do lists and tasks and our kids, toys, all the things. And I think it's just getting back to yourself, however that looks in its most basic form.
That's so good. I think we lose ourselves a lot of times because we are so inundated in everyone else's things.
It's so easy to go off center. Anything can shift you if you're not, right? Like rooted as a tree throughout your day. And so that's where, really noticing, right? That's where the mindfulness comes in, and just really noticing what centered feels like for you and what off center feels like for you. So that when you start to go off, which we all do, that's when you do whatever self-care practice you use to get yourself back. I'm not saying it's easy. Sometimes my family members notice I'm off center before I do. That happens a lot.
They don't say it so eloquently though. Like, oh, Mom, you're feeling a little off center today.
Right? No, they're like, what's wrong? I'm like, nothing. Why? What do you mean? And they're like, oh, okay.
Mom needs some time to herself, some self-care.
Exactly.
So. That's awesome. Well, Jacqueline, can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself? Kind of what's your story and what led you to what you're doing now?
Oh my gosh, of course. Thank you, Emily, for that question. So it's a lot of things, right? I'm very multi-passionate, very base level. I am really passionate about making the world a better place at work. And that's where the From Coffee to Wine podcast name came from. So I've been in corporate HR and recruiting for 10 years, and that has been my career hat. It's been really important to me. And along the way, built a family. So I'm also a mom of 3. I have 2 bonus kids and a little 5-year-old in my husband. And throughout my career, I've noticed a lot of things about people and companies, and that they don't always mesh super well. I thought it was just me or the companies that I was in. But as I continued to navigate work, I noticed that companies don't necessarily know how to employ people well, right? From the HR side, and people don't know what what brings them life and how to really engage in purposeful work. It just doesn't, those crosshairs don't happen automatically. You have to be really intentional about it. And I became a really passionate culture builder. And on top of that, found some free time this past summer during the pandemic where, floods of people were coming to me for, job search help and career help and, trying to completely rethink their lives in terms of their career. And, I was really doing the same for me. It was a really scary time for all of us. So I really formalized career coaching and found myself using, human design as a tool to do that. So in short, to sum this all up, during the day, I am an HR advisor for companies in HR and recruiting. And then by night, I'm a career coach, podcaster, and human design nerd.
That's awesome. I think you brought up a really good point that sometimes people and companies just don't mix. Well, and I think what really brings to light to me is, I'm going to be 40 this year. And the way I was brought up is you go to college and you get a job. You get whatever job you can get. And I feel like all working moms can relate to this, that, okay, it may not be my dream job, or I'm not exactly sure what I'm passionate about, but it'll work out as long as I just climb the corporate ladder. But that company just may not be the right fit for you, or you're just not the right fit for them, but you get stuck there because you're supposed to stay there and be safe and have your 401k and your vacation time and, all the things, but then you're just miserable.
Oh my gosh, you bring up such a great point. And congratulations on making it to 40. That's great. A side note, the advice that we're given in almost every area of our lives is really this one size fits all advice. And frankly, not all advice works for everybody. In fact, it's not supposed to. Everybody has their own way of going through life, and everybody has a different energy imprint. We're so unique and we're so different. And what has been taken from us, and not really to our fault, but we were born into this, right, is our own authority and being able to really figure out what's best for us, unless we're intentionally guided to that, or have some life situation that happens to us that guides us there. And so that really is the foundation of what I have been trying to guide people to, is back to themselves and back to them being their own authority and having more confidence in their decision making, and that it doesn't have to look like, their other mom best friend or whatever person, they see on Instagram or on Facebook or whoever. It's really about them. And the corporate ladder may be great for some people and it may not be great for other people. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't even have to look like this or that, right? It can be both, or whatever mix of opportunities you want to throw together, right? There just really isn't a playbook. It's yourself making that playbook. And it's really what I'm trying to help people do.
Yeah. Yeah. There is no playbook, like cookie cutter playbook. Like you said, like there's no one size fits all when it comes to mapping out your career. And there's no one to say that you should do this or should do that, not do that. We're just so ingrained with, so many standards growing up as far as what we're supposed to do or what we're inclined to, what we think we should do. It's really hard to step out of that. I love how you said to be your own authority too, and how life kind of guides you in certain directions that you would have never thought. It made me think of, I used to work for the American Heart Association for a number of years, actually 9 years now that I think about it. And I left there about 2 years ago, but I started working there because my oldest son was born with a congenital heart defect. And I had never considered working there. I just started speaking and raising money because I felt, helpless as a mother. I was like, well, I can raise money for research. I can do this. And then it eventually turned into a job. And it was a time in my life where I was like, well, I need flexibility as a mom. And I found some flexibility until it wasn't the right fit anymore. But it was just really interesting how life circumstances really guided me in my career and really found me in a job that I really, really liked until it wasn't the right fit anymore, which was a scary decision leaving there as well.
It takes so much courage to go after what's for you, honestly, because you're always disappointing somebody. This includes more than just women, but I'm speaking as a woman, as a mom. There's so many people to please, and I've fallen into that trap for a long, long time. And once I realized that I was I'm designed to have a specific decision-making strategy. And once I started following that and really understanding what that inner voice sounds and feels like, I gained so much confidence because it no longer mattered what other people wanted me to do or told me to do. It was like, okay, let me check in. Is this for me? Yes or no? Move forward. And so for you in that situation, having, being able to check in, understand your decision-making strategy, right? It takes a lot of courage to do that. So kudos to you. That's great.
Oh, thank you. Well, let's talk about human design a little bit because it's something I'm super interested in. It's majority working moms listening to us. And I think you could really shed some light on where they could go within not only their career, but their lives based on what they are designed to be. And also, just I think it's a lesson in becoming more self aware, which I think it's really hard to do sometimes. So, can you explain human design a little bit to us?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for asking. I am just a little bit of a preface. I'm a huge psychology nerd. So went to school for psychology for 15 years, Googled all the things, and became obsessed with personality assessments. Can anyone relate? And so once I found human design, I was like, oh, this is another cool thing. Let me dive into the rabbit hole. And what I found with human design is that it not only tells you about your conscious personality, what you know about yourself, think Myers-Briggs or Strength Finders. It also tells you about how you're basically mechanically imprinted, right? So how you're genetically disposed to operate. And it's a very logical design. It shows you how to access these different aspects of yourself, merge the two. It's definitely a synthesis. And it basically guides you to your own authority and your own decision-making. And like you said, brings you to your own self-awareness. And it's not, it's not an assessment where you have to take a big questionnaire and answer a million questions. It's based on your birth date and time. And so it combines modern science with ancient wisdom and offers a map or a manual that indicates how you're supposed to live and work as a unique person. And so I started studying this summer because I was introduced to the International Human Design School, the business application of human design, which totally brought me to a new level of nerding out, right? Because I'm like, I can apply this to business. I mean, that's where I live is business. So I enrolled in classes immediately, had a friend, a couple semesters ahead of me. And here I am 3 semesters later, like completely just ingrained and can't not talk about it because it really brings you back to your true nature. And I can't think of a more holistic and rewarding way to live. I mean, it brings so much confidence. And for a lot of people who are already, really aware of their intuition and can follow it, it brings up different aspects of themselves or confirms and validates them in ways that they're like, thank you. I didn't know that was quite me. It's great to know what is you and what you've picked up, because we all have things that we've picked up, right?
Hey gang, cutting in on this conversation real quick to tell you about my friends at The New Primal. I love this company not only because they make Whole30 approved sauces and meat sticks with just clean ingredients, but because of their mission of returning to the table. Food really does bring people together, and with all of our busy lives, it's hard to sit down to a meal together with your own family and your other loved ones. But The New Primal is really focused on community and bringing people together around food. And why not do that with clean ingredients? I use their classic marinade weekly. Their mustard barbecue is the perfect dipping sauce, and their ketchup as well. My kids love all their different spicy buffalo sauces as well. And like I said, their meat sticks are Whole30 approved, so I always have some in my handbag or in my glove compartment in my car if I need a quick emergency snack. So head over to thenewprimal.com and you can use the code EmilyNichols22 to receive 15% off your order. So remember, go to newprimal.com and let us know how you are returning to the table and connecting with others through food and The New Primal.
Good point. like say if I was just to Google human design and I put in like my birth date and the time I was born, then it would give me, is it like my personality type? Is that what the best way to describe it?
This is the confusing part. This is where I got a little off track back when I first found mine. Thank you for asking that. So there are a million places you can find it online. And what you pull up is actually, it's called a body graph. And it looks very confusing. It looks like a person, but a medical chart mixed with a 4-year-old drawing. And it's like, what in the heck is that? I was frustrated when I first saw it because I was like, I have no idea what this means. It gives you some information about yourself, like, oh, I'm a projector. What's that? So there are 5 types. And then there are no 2 designs or body graphs that are the same. So it's a synthesis of all this different information, and you can Google, all sorts of things about it to try to piece together things. And that's all fine and good. And there are tons of people like myself who are trained to read them and can, tell you about yourself. So, it depends on what level of intimacy you want to get with it. If you want to go learn for yourself, more power to you. If you want to Google all the things, more power to you. There's tons of free information out there. And then if you just want to kind of figure it out and be one and done, I actually went and saw somebody to have mine basically read for me. And at first I was like, okay, like what's really, I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical. And when she first started telling me some of the aspects about it, it was like she was reading the journal that I didn't keep.
Oh no. That's awesome though. That's so cool.
So I've been basically doing, strategy sessions with people, and some people come to me and they're just like, I want to know the information. Some people come to me and they're like, I want to also create my career strategy based on this. Some people come to me and they're like, I want to know all the things, like, let's keep going and keep going and keep going. And so it's been a really fun experiment.
Yeah. So based off of that, they could be like, okay, I'm a projector. I make decisions this way. I'm this type. I do things this way. And it would maybe help them along their career path, thinking about, their playbook, like you mentioned, like creating their playbook as they're going along the way.
Completely. Yeah. And it tells you where you are consistently, giving out certain energies and, different places where you may pick up things from other people more easily, or, some of your tendencies, choices you tend to make, like you mentioned, decision-making strategy, what it feels like, what your personal interaction with the world really should be, and not in a way that's like, controlling, you can only do this thing, but it's really about how to be more aligned with what's for you so that you can be successful, your definition of success, right? Not the world's, more easily. Because it doesn't have to be hard. It really doesn't. It can be easy. And I think a lot of us forget that, or maybe never believed that. And so we're used to like going through and everything's hard and we have to try and hustle. But we've seen it the other way, and it's really nice.
Well, I think when you become more self-aware, like, kind of like when you're feeling like in the zone, you're just feeling like your highest self, like your work's going good, you're communicating well with your partner, your kids are just like, everything's just clicking. And being more self-aware, you're able to put yourself in situations where you are going to feel more of your higher self for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. I have people come to me and they're like, I got this job and I didn't really even have to try. And that may seem like an extreme example, but there's a whole lot of back end work that this person did. And there's a whole long line of decisions this person made based on their specific strategy that led them to this point. So it felt like it landed in their lap.
Yeah. I think it all just comes back to being super intentional and just not being willy-nilly when it comes to your life, really.
Yeah, that's so good. Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's switch gears a little bit because, like I said, it's mostly moms, in particular working moms, that listen to the show. And I'm always focusing on, self-care, finding time for yourself. But a lot of the clients that come to me, their biggest challenges are number one, guilt, and number two, time, finding time for themselves. And a lot of that stems from they're so busy with work and so busy with other things. So, what do you feel like is maybe the biggest obstacle for working moms right now, or just in your opinion, being a working mom yourself?
That's a great question, Emily.
And it's different for
You
everybody.
and everyone
It's different
listening.
for everyone, right?
Yeah, who fits that category. I mean, I kind of alluded to it earlier. I've always done all the things.
Mhm.
And even in now here recently in the situation we're in, there are even more things
Yeah.
to worry about and perhaps pick up. I mean, we became school teachers this last year, a lot of us, and figuring out how to make ends meet in some cases. I mean, there's just more. And it feels like, as the backbone in a lot of cases, that's on us and we have to figure it out. And there's no one else. So therefore there's no time for ourselves. And I know I have felt that way many times over the last year. And so, every couple of weeks, I'll just like look at my husband and I'm like, I'm exhausted. He's like, what do you need? I'm like, can you just like, whatever it is, the thing.
Mhm.
And that has been, really hard for me because a lot of working moms in my life, including myself, and so that's the experience that I'm speaking from,
Yeah.
have been the doer and the giver. And I mean, that's part of being a mom. At the same time, receiving can be really difficult for a lot of people. Um, and so I think it really starts there. Just one, acknowledging like, okay, I can receive. It is okay to be given things. It is okay for things to be easy for me. And then really start to cultivate that into your habits. And if you have a partner, your partner, and depending on how old your kids are, bleeding it in there, like they can have responsibilities too. And it's not just one quick fix. As you know, it's a series of little habits and little packs that you make with your little pack,
Yeah.
and really releasing that guilt of not
Yeah.
being able to do it all.
It's so hard. It's so hard to ask for help. It's almost feeling like you're waving a white flag, like, I surrender, SOS, someone please come help me. But it's when you're like at your wits' end. It's not like before you're there where you're like checking in with yourself, like, I could really have a night off from making dinner tonight. Husband's going to make it. I'm going to go for a walk, And like you said, we're just such doers and nurturers. And we're like, I can do it all. I can have it all. But girlfriend, you're going to get tired and you need
My
to you're
goodness.
going to burn out for sure.
Yeah, that's been me so many times. So I made a choice last year with my husband. Whenever he would ask me if he could do something for me, I would just say yes. Like, I'll just, yes. He's like, okay, that was really cool. Yes. Like, I'll just take it, whatever it is, however I'm feeling. Yes. And over time, I got really strategic on what I actually needed help with. But just learning how to receive was a big obstacle I had to overcome as a working mom who wants to do it all and thinks that if I'm not, I'm failing. And that's just another example of redefining what my success looks like. It's not doing it all.
Yep. Yep. For sure. Well, Jacqueline, let me ask you this. When thinking about your career, this is a two-part question. What has been the most rewarding move and the most challenging move you've made in your career? And it can be for personal or professional reasons, emotional, whatever that feels like to you.
So rewarding, I would say, was moving locations. I think everything is an opportunity for wisdom, right? And even though I felt like I had made some mistakes, there are no mistakes. It's just wisdom building opportunities. So I lived for a little while south of where I live now, but I moved back home basically. And moving back home closer to my parents, wanting to raise my daughter here close to them was great for me personally. And it was also really rewarding for me professionally because Indianapolis is I live in Indianapolis now. It's an amazing place to live. There's so many opportunities, so many places and people to connect with. And that really just opened up my world in terms of opportunity career-wise. I had a role that I was in for like 10 months. And even though it wasn't the best role in the world, I learned a ton and spent those 10 months just really building my network. And still continue to this day. So that was just an amazing decision on my end to move back home. And challenging. That's a really hard one, Emily. I think anytime I've moved, it's been really hard because it does take courage to make a change. And even though I was following, that inner intuition every single time, I was disappointing so many people. I was leaving things undone. I mean, every time you leave an employer, no matter how aware you are, there's a little bit of grief that happens, whether it's on your terms or not. And really learning how to cope and heal through that each time. It's no small thing. I mean, it's a breakup. It's a family. Yeah. Like I put my whole self into my job. Those are my people. I'm in HR. I love those people. And so that is never easy. And so whenever somebody moves, whether they're my client or somebody that I'm working with more casually, it's like, let's heal from this. Let's figure this out when you're moving. Cause I get it. Like it's just not easy. And it's not something that you'll carry it with you if you don't stop and take a moment to collect yourself after an experience like that.
Yeah, for sure. So many emotions when it comes to career. And like you said, it's like a breakup sometimes when you leave. And especially from an HR perspective, when you said that, it was like, yeah, it has to be really hard because you've gotten to know like everyone.
Yeah. I mean, my first job that I quit, I was a basket case, even though I knew it was the best opportunity for me to leave. And I knew that I was going to have a different lifestyle in terms of not working so much and all of those things. I left that day on my last day, like just crying, like bawling my eyes out. There was such a tight knit family. And then by the time I reached my destination, which was, an hour away, I was like, okay, like I'm ready. Let's go. All right, let's go.
Yeah, for sure. Oh gosh, thank you for sharing that with me. That's such a really good point. I'm sure a lot of ladies can relate to that as well. Well, Jacqueline, I feel like I've learned so much from you and so many great takeaways for working women listening to this show, and in particular, working moms. Can you share where everyone can find you, where we can listen to your podcast and connect and be more inspired by you?
Oh, you're sweet, Emily. Yeah. So I love Instagram at Jacqueline.Hepburn, like Audrey Hepburn, my stage name. And you can find my podcast on Apple and Spotify. It's From Coffee to Wine. I'm also very active on LinkedIn under Jacqueline Martinez.
Awesome. And what would someone expect when listening to your show when they go over to listen to it?
Yeah. So honestly, Emily, I started it because I was having these conversations with people that expanded my mind and really helped me grow. And so I'll call it a little bit of everything with a focus on self-development and being better in life and at work.
I love it. We can all use more inspiration like that. So Jacqueline, thank you so much for this conversation. I so enjoy talking with you, and thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me, Emily. It's been so much fun.
Jacqueline, thank you so much for this conversation. I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners did as well. Thank you so much for sharing your heart with us. So gang, as promised, I'm going to share my 3 biggest takeaways, but before I do, I'm going to share what my type is for the human design model. Now, as Jacqueline mentioned, you should probably have an expert take you through this. And I asked her if someone was to Google it because I know me, and if you're like me, you'll probably just go and Google what your human design type is based on your birthday and time you were born. I know you will, because that's exactly what I did. But definitely look into having someone like Jacqueline read it a little bit further and give you a little bit more knowledge on yourself. Think Myers-Briggs, Strength Finder, Enneagram, just taking it one step further. Whenever you take one of those personality tests, I think a lot of times you aren't surprised, but it's just another way to become more self-aware and kind of read a little bit about how you can best navigate your career and your life by being more self-aware and just living as your highest self. So when I did mine, I am a manifesting generator, which I wasn't surprised, just based off the story I shared at the top of the episode about how I went after the jobs I wanted. That did take some guts and some time to do that, and some strategy on my part as well. But there was no other option in my head. I was going to find these new jobs for myself, and I really feel like I prayed for it and God gave it to me because it was the right fit for me, and I actually used strategy to get there as well. And I know we could dig into that a lot deeper, but I think it's worth going and just figuring out what you are if you want to take it a step further and work with someone like Jacqueline to know what your human design is more in order to live your highest self. I think you should definitely go for it. All right, so here's my 3 biggest takeaways for you based on this conversation with Jacqueline. Number 1, there is no one-size-fits-all career or playbook. There's just not. What I did to go get my career, obviously you can take my suggestions, kind of do what I did, work with a career coach like Jacqueline and try what she mentioned. But in the end, like Jacqueline mentioned, you are your own authority. You need to have the guts, like I'm saying again, to go after what you want. Friend, if you are sitting in a career that is just draining mentally and or physically, I know what that feels like just from watching my husband work nights. It was draining on him physically. Ugh, I could never go back there. But you have to use your own authority to go after what you want. You can try this, you can try that. You can Google and look on Career Builder and LinkedIn and stuff and work with career coaches. But in the end, you are responsible and you need to take the action and believe that what is out there for you will find you and you will find it. You can't just sit around waiting for it. You have to go after what you want. Life is too short to be sitting in a career that is draining you mentally and physically. It's just not. So you are your own authority. Go out and find that. Rely on resources like career coaches like Jacqueline, suggestions and hearing from other friends. But in the end, you go after it yourself. Number 2, definitely look into human design. Like Jacqueline mentioned, it's your own conscious personality, and it's just a way to help you become more self-aware and be aligned with what's for you. Okay, I definitely think it's really worth looking into that. The Enneagram, Strengths Finder, Myers-Briggs, all of that. Learn as much as you can about yourself. It's great to even see what other celebrities or famous people are within these types, because it's another way for you to become more self-aware. You hear people say all the time, oh, you just need to become more self-aware. And it's like, well, what does that even really mean? So using tools like these personality tests, for example, are a really great way to become more self-aware and live your highest self as a working mom. And number 3, I loved this quote so much from Jacqueline. When it comes to your own self-care as a working mom, we've talked about setting boundaries and saying no before, but I love the way she put this. Make pacts with your little pack. I love that. So asking for help from your partner, telling your kids, this is when mom is going to be going to doing this, or you have to go on a work trip, or if anyone even travels anymore, if you're like going an hour away from home. But you have to make these pacts with your little pack and be open and telling people with what you want and what you need. You need to be able to release things. You're going to end up building up resentment if you aren't able to take time for yourself and making these pacts with your little pack. And you just need to be open to receiving that help as well. That you feel like you see like on social media, like working moms just have it all. They're working during the day, they're running their kids to sporting events, they're doing dinner, they're getting homework done, they're tucking their kids in and all snuggled up in bed with their spouse at the end of the day. That sounds great, but actually it's more chaotic than that, right? When your feet hit the floor, it is time to go. But why not make these little packs with your pack to let them know that you are taking time for yourself? You are putting your oxygen mask on first, as I always say, so you can breathe and so you can help the others in your family and show up as the best employee, entrepreneur, leader, mother, wife, spouse, whatever. Okay, so make these packs with your little pack in order to make yourself a priority. And you know what? That is not selfish. So gang, I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. It was a little different from the norm, talking about health and wellness, but I feel like this is such a part of your health and wellness is your career. And if you're living your highest self and really taking care of your mindset and protecting your mindset when it comes to your job, because let's face it, we go to work 40 plus hours a week, right? Regardless if you're actually physically going somewhere or if you're working from home and you're virtual learning too, you add on some extra working hours, in my opinion, if you're doing virtual learning with your kiddos. So make the time to take care of you. Become more self-aware. And Mama, if you are working in a job that is physically and mentally draining you, let's take some action today to get you out of there and find something and manifest that it's going to be the best option for you and your family. So go give Jacqueline a follow. Go listen to the From Coffee to Wine podcast to be even more inspired out there for all the career women listening. And make sure to check out the show notes so you can join my free Facebook community group. We'll be talking about the human design a little bit more this week, but more so just becoming more self-aware and how you can use that as a working mom. And give me a follow on Instagram at EmilyNichols22 to get a behind the scenes look, to watch all my fun reels. I'm having so much fun with that, you guys, and just sending you all lots of love and light out there. I know 2021 is going to be a better year because I'm going to believe it and I'm going to manifest it and pray about it and know it's going to be a better year, and I want that same thing for you. So thanks for listening. If you want to get on my mailing list, you can go over to the link in the show notes as well. I always have my announcements coming out to that little pack of mine first, so behind the scenes stuff that's happening first within the podcast, and I would love to see you over there. Promise not to spam. You just get one love note from me a week. Okay, Red? Okay, cool. All right, gang, thanks again for listening, and remember, self-care isn't selfish.